I'll do a separate intro in this podcast where I make a separate intro in Khmer and just tell people about your background, what you do, and we just go straight into the topics in this podcast.
That's it. Actually, are we taping now?
We've been taping for the last 2 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. The origin story of anybody is super important. My origin story came from being on like the upside of school and being good at school and getting A's and then realizing like, wait a minute, I'm going to Spanish class for like 7 years now, and I just tried to speak with somebody in a supermarket and I can't. And so that's the origin story for me. And then getting jobs with like the lowest of the low people, the immigrants who were there to clean and cut trees and stuff like that and cut grass, and spending those hours, those long contact hours, that's what put me in the actual ability to speak zone. Because they give you all these books, right? They give you like the classical books, like the Shakespeare of Spain, like the African Cubano stuff, the magical realism, the social, the protest. They give you all that history in Spanish, and you're just supposed to pick it up. But the information is way up here.
Yeah.
So you're trying and trying and trying for like 4 years of college. Meanwhile, you're paying money. And the professors, they get paid to come in and show and make you take notes and punish you if you don't do your job by giving you a bad grade, when really, have they done their job? And that's my thing to everybody. The teacher needs to be doing their job. And if they're not, well, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's what we're here to talk about, actually. This podcast, I want to touch on the approach to language learning, because here we are in 2022. I'm sure a lot of people put learning a new language in their New Year resolutions. I myself included, because currently I'm learning Chinese. I've been also practicing Thai, trying to push it to fluency, while also speaking English and Khmer simultaneously. So the subject of language learning has really intrigued me, for a long time, because
Me too.
I realized that a lot of people and also I also had this experience where we approach it the wrong way when it came to language learning. So I hope this podcast could shed some light, give some insights to what we can do in order to enhance that. So why don't we start with, what do you think is the first approach or the first method of learning that is completely useless, but it gives us some sort of like instant gratifications, the idea that we're learning, the idea that we're making progress, but we're not really making any?
The thing that crosses my mind is a student I had a few years ago when we were trying to get them to read books. And we said, here's these books that are engineered. These books are designed by people. It's like they take the old Sherlock Holmes mystery or John Grisham lawyer, or some kind of detective, or some kind of exciting story like the Titanic movie. They make it into a small book.
Could you put this?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
This student said, no, screw that. I brought a little book from the market. It's got a bunch of exercises in it. And look how many exercises I did today.
5.
Yeah, and she's like showing me the book and like, oh, I did this. Oh, and look, there's a story. I said, I don't know what I said, but it goes against everything that what's called the input hypothesis. And it's not just a hypothesis, it's a reality. If you don't have that input, there's an input on here. If stuff does not go into this machine, nothing comes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the biggest thing that people need to know is you've got to stop memorizing lists. You've got to stop trying to just do workbook exercises. You've got to get out of this mode where you go in and you just talk about your vacation for an hour and you listen to people and you feel like a happy feeling. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not going to actually teach you anything. So that's why you don't get better.
So let me go back a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
When we do the workbook, aren't we getting input from the process?
You're getting some. You're getting some. But is it enough? So the point is, you've got this textbook or this workbook, and the entire, they've done studies on this, in your entire high school, you're only going to get 100,000 words out of textbooks or out of workbooks, when you actually need about 5 million words. So you get 1/50th. If you could do high school 50 times, then you would have enough words.
As a 12 years times 50,
Yeah.
that's just
no,
600.
4 years.
Oh, 4 years.
4 years times 50. So
That's just 20 years.
that's 200. 200
just kidding.
years. Yeah. No, but the thing is you can, and this is, the thing is that people just want something given to them. That's what I think people don't know. People think that they walk into a school and they are in there and they're just supposed to get better because they've paid the money. And the reality is, you have to, just like I did with those workers, just like I did with all those novels and stuff that I read in Spanish. And it pains me because I struggled. And it was like, college, you're awake at like 2 o'clock at night. You're typing a paper in another language, or you're typing a journal entry in another language. And it's just going to go turn into the teacher, and they're just going to give you a B, C, or D, and you're going to move on. It's not important. So we have to bring reality into language.
So it's important that we consume something that is relevant.
That's right.
Relevant to our interests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have prepared this a little better, but you have to be interested. There has to be a context or a story. You have to have enough of the words. That's about it.
Yeah.
And there are ways to do that.
How?
Well, you got books, but how many books do you have? We don't have a lot. So we got to use this, and we got to use your laptop. We got to use our phones. I've got apps on my phone. This is an older phone, nothing fancy. And I've got a Kindle for stuff in my own language.
Yeah.
But I have tons of these little comic book apps. And one of the founding fathers of language learning is Stephen Krashen. And he's not against schools, but he's done studies that prove that you can get better scores by reading than by attending a language class.
Reading comics, because you mentioned that reading textbooks or workbooks has no effects. It has no useful effects whatsoever.
I wouldn't say it has no useful effect. It's just not what you need. It's one little piece of the puzzle, one tiny piece, all right, out of like all of this stuff that I will go through in a language class to expose people properly to the vocabulary or grammar, and then get them to use it together in a conversation using new grammar that they haven't used before. For example, progressive or continuous something or past perfect or whatever we're looking at. The mechanical exercise is like 10%. So what happens if you eat 10% of your diet? You're going to die. Or what happens if you only eat cereal or you only eat rice? You're not going to be strong. You're going to have problems. And so that's why your language has problems. And that's why, I know that my Khmer is messed up. But I do my best, and I get repeated exposures every week. I'm talking to people every week for hours at a time. And I'm still bad. But listen to me next year, and I bet you I'll be saying I instead of apaniha.
Yeah. When it comes to learning grammars, do you think it's wise for people to learn principles, or there are other ways like consuming some types of entertainment formats, like you mentioned, like reading comics? Are those a better options in terms of learning grammar, or we just go straight into principles?
It's not useless. It's not 100% useless. It's a small, important part of the process. So at the end of me showing a class how the some grammar form is used, let's just say a present continuous. When do we use present continuous? When do we use present simple? A lot of people are confused about that, and it never actually gets taught. It gets shown to us on a board, and the teacher says, here's column A, here's column B. But they don't go through the process that's been established by scientific research over the last 40 years, last 50 years.
What is the process?
You have to basically teach the language as if you're the parents and the student is the baby in the house. When was the last time your parents gave you a workbook to learn Khmer? Never.
Yeah.
But they hold up a fork and they say, this is a fork. Or no, they don't say this is a fork. That's Berlitz, right? I have a pen. I have a pen, right? No, they don't do that. Honey, can I have the pen? And she picks up the pen. And so as a baby, you see that. You saw Daddy said pen. Mommy picked up this thing.
I have a pen. I have an apple.
Yeah,
Apple pen.
Apple pen. And it's so useless. That's why the song is so on point. And it's so funny because people know that they've gone to those classes and they're like, yeah, I can say apple pen. It means nothing.
Yeah. Let us explore more on that subject a little bit, because for me, before I started learning Thai on my own, I actually enrolled in a school. But then I found out that what I was doing in the class was so minimal to what I could have gained, because it turned out that we were only studying alphabets, like how to write the alphabets correctly. And I can't really blame them, because the systems was designed to accommodate around 30 people in a class. So it's hard for it to be designed to tailor to my needs specifically. So it turned out that after 2 weeks, I realized that the system was just designed to milk money out of my pockets for years to come, without any guarantees that I would be able to speak Thai or anything. So I decided to just drop out after 2 weeks, started, to explore my own, finding resources on the internet. And surprisingly, I was able to speak Thai after 6 months of learning by myself, just by listening to music, reading articles that I was interested in, watching movies. And that was it, And
you discovered it. You discovered it on your own without having to pay for a master's in ESL like I did.
Yeah.
So congratulations. You discovered it as a natural human in the natural world doing natural things.
Yeah. See, that's why I'm very excited to do this podcast, because hopefully I can discover more useful methods and others can, start exploring on their own. Because I'm currently learning Chinese and I've been applying the same methods. I've been reading articles that I'm genuinely interested in.
And you can read the articles?
I can read it. They have opinion. I could now.
Read it in Pinyin.
Yeah,
okay,
Pinyin.
You can read it in Pinyin.
Yeah.
So it's adapted to a Pinyin audience.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll be able to read characters, because you're just going to keep going and going and going.
Eventually. Yeah. Now I could understand why some sentences are constructed the way they are.
Yeah.
I could understand basic grammatical structures.
Yeah.
It will take me a little bit more of time until I can converse in Mandarin fluently.
That's right.
Yeah. But I feel like what I'm doing is so much better, is so much efficient than enrolling in a class and just learning how to write, Chinese alphabets, which I will forget eventually later on.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But the thing is about the alphabet is, like, if it's not part of a story and it's just there for me to write something and give it to the teacher, that's not real life. It's not even trying to be like real life enough to make the class worth it. We need to bring it back to what people need right now as a working professional, or as somebody who is a student who's struggling in school. These are my people. I teach people online, and I'm testing out these methods on Duolingo. I've been in a classroom for the last 10 years, and people need... First of all, you got to show up to class. You got to show up to class, right? That's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
This is a big time waster.
Phone?
People say they don't have a lot of time. This could be a gift, and it could be a danger.
Cool. So how do we use our phones to the maximum capacity in order to enhance language learning?
We have to look for things that are in our... We have to have language that we can understand. I cannot just open up the Wall Street Journal if I'm an 8th grader. I can't just read Wall Street Journal unless I've been acquiring English my entire life.
Yeah.
Now I can read that story. It's a little bit collegey. It's a little bit university level. I can't just open up the New York Times. No, I have to find things that are my level, and that's where I come in. I help people find those things because you need your level that you're at plus a little bit. Just like at the gym. You can lift 100 kilos. Now let's try 110. Oh, that hurts a little bit. Ooh, let's try 120. Ooh, now you're getting really, now it really hurts. But you're going to go home and you're going to eat well and sleep, and your muscles actually going to grow overnight without you doing anything. See, you caused the damage. Your body puts that back in. You put that brain to work in a book, and you're not filling out a workbook when you're reading a book. It's a story from real life that you chose because it's interesting to you. The words go into your head. Your brain says, boop, I'm going to put that there. Boop, I'm going to put that in the to be box. Oh, I'm going to put that in the prepositions box.
Yeah.
So first language is different from second language because when you think about a second language, you're thinking like, oh, in Khmer, I'm like, what is the 4 in this situation? Is it Samrab or is it Champal? Because I have 2 4s.
Yeah.
And I have about, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, which one is it? And I have to think about it. And that's what Krashen calls the monitor. This is the monitor right here. In your brain, the monitor is like, it's like the little homework voice that says, oh, wait, was I supposed to put an S on the end of that word? Or wait, do I say that with ing or ed? That's the monitor for your second language. You never think about that in your first language.
Yeah. I have a story.
Go ahead.
So I was learning English. I started learning English since the age of 4. I didn't see any effects like eye-breaking effects until the age of 16. I mean, at the age of 16, my IELTS was only 6.5, even though I'd studied English like 12 years prior to that. So
Some native speakers can't score a 6.5.
well, now it's 8. 2 years later, 2 years later, I scored an 8.0 IELTS.
That's an academic way to speak, though. You are an academic, sir. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, so the story was that I stopped learning for a year because initially, before then, I only thought that the only way of learning English was through school, where the professor would require me to read these complex topics, all this complicated newspaper about like finance, like Wall Street Journal whatsoever. So I thought that was the only way for me to enhance, and I hated it. I hated every second of it.
You know that you hate it.
Yeah,
I know that I hated it.
But I thought that was the only way.
And you're looking at it, and it's like a bad copy, and it's scanned into Canvas or something, and it's like the letters are like the ink goes over the, it's from like 30 years ago, and it's
exactly. I was not reading for context at all. I was
the
not.
Professor's like, did you read page 254? What did the protagonist say? And you're like, okay. Oops, sorry. I bumped your mic.
And you know what changed? It was only until I stopped and started reading articles about celebrities, like celebrity scandals.
Easy stuff that's fun to read.
Yeah, and I like seeing celebrities drama.
Why not?
So
People magazine. Yeah, or not People. Us Weekly, or even worse.
I mean, people's interests vary. You know,
That's
I'm not advising people
You
to do the
might
same.
like that one year and then like something else next year.
Exactly.
That's right.
Other people may like human robotics. Who know? I mean, there's a ton of that on the internet. But lucky for me, I was able to find all. I mean, it's the internet. It's easy. It's easy
Well,
to
there's
access.
Westworld, there's Isaac Asimov, there's Will Smith, I Am Robot.
Yeah.
There's so many things you can do. You can go from easy to like super advanced right there in those three things.
Yeah, yeah. So that's when everything changed for me. Not because I was doing well in school or anything, but because I was reading something that I was genuinely interested in
That's right.
on the internet.
That's it. You've experienced what I had to pay for.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't really paid for
Well,
it. Sorry, U.S. government.
Let's talk about a class atmosphere a little bit,
Oh, yeah,
because
sure.
we understand
It's important.
that, you know, doing it in class can be productive,
It is. It can be.
but sometimes it can also be counterproductive.
That's right.
For example, when I was learning Thai, like I said, I was enrolling there for 2 weeks, and the reason that I also dropped out was because there was this pretty girl in class, and I was kind of nervous if I would humiliate myself
That's right.
by speaking the wrong thing or couldn't answer the professor's question, and then she she would think low of me, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like for other people as well, maybe that's the reason why people are struggling in class, you know, because this fear of embarrassment, this fear of humiliations,
It's huge.
it's huge. Exactly.
The other thing is that teachers kind of use that as maybe they do it not on purpose, but they do it because it's been done to them. That fear and that control and that dominance is kind of a weapon to keep you in your place.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. But it's not really something that could help you progress, isn't
It's
it?
not helping your language. It's helping you stay in that classroom and
For years to
shut
come.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sit down and shut up. Keep your butt in that chair. Your parents want you to do good. Ah, I see you. Is that your cell phone? Oh, are you interested in something other than watching me talk in front of the class? Don't get me started, man. Don't get me started. Okay, so the thing is, there is a way, and I was talking about this with a Khmer teacher earlier, maybe a month ago. There's a way that a classroom should be arranged so that it is a welcoming group work friendly space, so that you are now kind of like a coworker with me. I'm working so that I can see what you need, and then you can work back, and you give me the output, the writing, the speaking, and then I give you a little bit more feedback. And that's a circle. How many people can I do that with and be effective? The research says, if you talk about Ivan Katz, he shared this with me my first year at AEPP, 12 to 14 people maximum for good groups, and still having enough time for the professor or the teacher to give that individual one-on-one time. You don't want 25 or 30 people. And so what's up with these classes where there's like 100 people? And then you got the Chinese model where there's like really a lot of people in one hall.
Yeah.
So
Well,
they're
I
coming
think the
around too.
standard quantity at the moment is 25.
I mean, nothing against that model, because it's doing something and they've got their system set up, and I'm not criticizing it, but I would say it's not consistent with the research, but it is consistent with getting a whole bunch of people in a room and getting them out.
Yeah.
But you're not going to ask the people that are graduating from any school, that's how you know.
What about the methods of requiring students to only speak English in classroom?
It's bad. That's really bad.
Really?
It makes people abandon their first language. It
But-
makes people stop talking to their parents.
Isn't that but for other people, they may think that isn't that the goal of learning a language? It's like you just try to force yourself to speak that language.
The answer is not. The answer has to be in the form of a question. Can you build a house on air?
I'm trying to think of building a house on air in Minecraft. You know.
Yeah, you can do that. It's in an imaginary world, but you still need a place in that little island. You still have to build on that little sky island,
Yeah.
right? I remember doing those. So, and I'm 42 almost. You have to have what's called your L1 going to the L2, the first language going to the second language. I cannot just tell you, speak English, or the beatings will continue. I will continue to punish you. I will continue to call you out until you speak English. I have to give you a useful context to speak English.
What about in some classroom activities, like they try to generate output to get you to generate output by speaking, like talking about your vacation, talking about your likes and dislikes?
Okay. There's two ways to do this. There's a right way and a wrong way. Here's the wrong way. Come in and we spend like an hour like talking about stuff. And you feel good and I feel good and I got a paycheck and you came to class and I checked the box that you came to class. And you go to the next level. And we say, "Oh, now you're a B1."
But it's not effective.
But you haven't really learned anything. But I just gave you the paper to go forward. That happens everywhere. Don't think it's just an Asia thing. It happens in America too. You have to give them an easy way. You have to give people a useful, easy way, something they can do within the next 15 or 20 minutes with their partner. Like if you're going to use the future perfect successfully, people have to have time to put that together. If I'm a Khmer speaker and you're a Khmer speaker and we're figuring out how to use the future perfect together after the teacher just showed us a little story about it, in the future, how would I even say that? I will have, right?
Yeah, future perfect. I will have been successful.
Yeah, I will have something that, yeah. And so you've got the formula, will plus the verb have plus been plus the adjective. And the class has to talk about that first. I can't just say, look at page 6, notice that, now do it.
But is it mandatory for the whole sessions to be conducted purely in English? Or
No, that's the thing. That's the most important thing. I'm glad you said that. It is not. You cannot discuss a language in that language. That's a very complicated way to talk.
Yeah.
I can't just go into a Spanish class and say, like, oh, yeah, bueno, lo imperfecto lo necesita una something, algo, la, 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 la. No, I have to be like, hey, what's up with that future imperfect? What's up with that? And then my friend who speaks English is like, oh, yeah, that's where you put the ia on the end of every word, and then you put that, like, future thing on it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that from the workbook exercise we did for homework. He's like, yeah, we have to do that, like, in a paragraph within the next 20 minutes. And then we're going to write it. So I'm writing it, and there's a process going on in my head when I write it out. My monitor is working. Do I put that there? Do I put the ed? Do I put an ing? Do I put will? Do I have? Do I put been? Hey, I'm talking to my friend in our first language. That has to happen first.
Yeah.
It's impossible for us to talk about that. It's impossible if you were to say, all right, we're going to speak Khmer now, starting now, and we're going to talk about the past. You've heard about Ban? Well, here's some other stuff. Where does Ban go? And you start saying it all in Khmer. I don't know what you're saying. I've seen Ban. I've heard Ban. I know Ban means something with the past. I also know that it means ready or ready to receive in some way. I'm not entirely sure because I'm not a native speaker. So my monitor says, oh, Ban is kind of like, it's like an ed, but it has nothing to do with ed. It doesn't go on the end of a word. It's in there in different places. Sometimes it's before, sometimes it's after. I haven't figured it all out. But if you gave me specific structured input, which is a paragraph where you read it and it was something I knew about, Kawat Ban Twer something, you know, he did this, or Twer Ban blah, blah, blah. I don't know how you'd arrange it. It goes into my brain, and my brain is like, oh, yeah, this goes there, that goes there, this goes, oh, no, this goes there, that goes there. A plus B plus C equals the final result. This is what the teacher wants 3 to 5 times. Now you have something that resembles a physical training program. Do 10 to 12 reps. That's a set, right? How long does it take me to write 10 to 12 sentences? I'll tell you how long. Too long. So I ask people to write 3 to 5 sentences. That can take up to 30 minutes. I'm the teacher. I'm already like, after 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's time to present. Okay, who are you talking about? Oh, we're talking about Lionel Messi. Who are you talking about? Oh, we're talking about Celine Dion. Oh, we're talking about Leo DiCaprio. Now you've got a meaningful story. By the end of this movie, I will have died. Who am I talking about?
Leo DiCaprio.
We're definitely talking about Leo DiCaprio. I will have fallen into the water and frozen to death.
Yeah, I mean, he dies in almost every movie. So.
He tragically dies, but he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And people love it.
Let's talk a little further about the negative implications regarding forcing people or having people to only speak English.
It is forcing.
In a session.
Yeah.
What are some of the negative implications that you have encountered?
Well, it's just like...
do kids stop speaking and then they just shut themselves out?
Everybody knows that they're in jail. Everybody knows that you're just there to sit and waste time.
There's no useful input.
Well, after a while, you get traumatized the first time, right? At the beginning of our life, we don't actually realize because we're so young when that process starts happening.
True, it happened to me. And I was so young to even remember anything.
But go to Indonesia now and get cussed out by an Indonesian teacher because she's highly traditional, and you'll realize now as an adult, like, hey, wait a minute, guys, I think I've just been traumatized. But as a kid, you're like, oh, that sucks.
So let me go into the most important questions,
Let's
right?
do it.
So what if we have a group of, let's just say 3 students, fresh out of high school,
Yep.
have a very limited knowledge, limited capacity in terms of English usage, and they come to you, and keep in mind that they're 18, so it's completely different than how you would teach kids.
That's right. No, this is the exact age that I'm used to at the college.
So how would you incorporate the research-based methods that you have been using thus far into helping these kids in order to progress their English learning?
Well, the first thing is just, if you ever watch Athlete X, the trainer.
I don't think they would understand a reference.
Okay.
A lot of people would understand.
There is a YouTube trainer that gives you all of the science-based ways to work out, not all the ways that somebody said, like Arnold 30 years ago. Stuff that's still popular in a lot of countries that's fallen out, that's in the past, right? He would say that if you get somebody who's 300 pounds and they want to come in and start doing pull-ups, cannot. You're going to die. You have to give diet and you have to give education. The first thing is I would show them the slides, the easy to follow slides of why I'm going to give them what I give them. I'm going to explain to them very carefully what we're going to do and that they're going to have fun doing it and that it's going to be totally different from any language class that they've ever had. And I want them to just trust me, and if they don't like something, just tell me. And I will go through it because I've done this a million times now. I don't care who walks in that door. If it's somebody from Namibia, and it's Prince Umbutu, and he's never spoken English before, or he's had like a royal upbringing. I've actually had a student like this, a royal upbringing, but the most jacked up English pronunciation ever. We need private lessons because you're going to be embarrassed in front of your friends, and you're the prince. So let me break it down. I'm going to help you. This is going to help you. It's not going to be the same.
Can you give us a brief image on how the class would be conducted? From what you just said thus far, how is it different than the traditional English class? Well, what are some of the activities that you're going to do?
I'll show them different kinds of input. And this is what I mean. Language must be downloaded to your brain. You have to download 5 million words in English to get into a good university. How do you get that? I cannot teach you 5 million words. You need to spend a little bit of time every day. Take some of that heyday time. Take some of that PUBG time and put it into the books. Get lost in a book. Let's find something that's at your level that you like. Do you like romance? Okay, let's do that. Do you like science fiction? Okay, let's do that. Whatever, I don't care. I will find it. I will go on. I have started with Disney. I have gotten 30 and 40-year-old men and women to read One Piece, and they love it. Or Naruto, and they love it. Or even Adventure Time. And Stephen Krashen and all the other research, but I'm going to mainly stay with Krashen because it's so obvious on his website. It is so immediately obvious. And the studies are there, and the data is there. Reading with pictures is like level 1. You can read real stuff as long as it has a picture. You don't need a company to dumb that down unless it's really scientific, right?
Right.
Unless you've got like the real story of the Three Musketeers in comic book form, and it's the exact same words, but they don't usually do that. They usually put a short summary. So after 50 pages, you got the whole book that would have cost you like 500 pages of time beforehand if you had just gone and read the real book, which is free, by the way, and I can show you where it's free. It's Gutenberg.org. But you get the picture, and then I find I've got like 28 gigabytes of free books on here that are graded readers. You can find those online for free. I can show you where to get the ones that you can pay for if you want to go the extra and get the updates. And we're going to do some listening. We're going to do some summarizing. We're going to do a book club. You're going to talk about it with your friends. We're going to have a module where you're going to at least speak, listen, read, and write in a nice recycled way over and over. That's how you get the words downloaded to your brain. 8 to 10 times, you know that word. It's like a face. It's like a Chinese character. I know the Chinese character for indignation. I could draw it out, kind of. It looks like a little...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the key is repetition. So we have to read the same content.
Repetition in a story. So there are books that they've made that repeat certain things.
Ah, okay.
So
now I get it.
Now it's like level 1 is like present continuous and present simple. All right, now you're getting to level 2. Oh, now we've got some imperfect tenses in there. Maybe we've got a little bit of complicated past tense stuff. Level 3, now I've got multiple things going on in the sentence. Level 4, now I'm getting close to like a middle school textbook level stuff. And then level 5 and 6, now we're getting close to what we need for high school and college.
Nice. So aside from doing all that, what else would you get them to do?
Definitely work together. Definitely talk about things together. Definitely glue the second language to their first language. Creating little guides for themselves within the research-based things. But also, if you are one of those people that feels like you have to do something traditionally, I will figure out how to take that traditional exercise and bridge it to a non-traditional exercise. So we're not going to take you completely out of the water. We're not going to take you completely from hot water to cold water and freeze you to death. No. I'm going to take that thing that you do, and I'm going to make it exactly what it needs to be in a short, manageable time period, and easy enough so that you don't feel bad or you don't feel dumb. And we're going to talk about how I don't know that word in your language. Why should I expect you to know that word perfectly in my language? We're here to work together, not me dominate you.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Well, Terry, it's been very illuminating. Let's end this podcast with a catch because we talked about this before.
Okay.
Because at the end of this podcast, there's a catch, which is Terry is open for 5 students.
Yep,
to
5
come.
students. Anybody.
Yeah, to come in and try this method with him, and let's see. Let's
And
see.
let's show it.
Let's
Yeah,
just show it
I'm
because
excited.
we don't want this podcast to be received as, oh, this guy is just all talk, or this guy just all talk. It's just there's no practicality or anything. So we want to prove that this method can work, and it will work.
I would say to anybody who doubts me, if you can read very basic English, you can go to duolingo.com and look up my public profile, because I offer a public free class every Friday at 6 o'clock our time, because that's the only time I have. And I've got people from all around the world. I've got a Vietnamese granny who comes on from Germany. And she married a German guy, but she's from Vietnam. And she says things like, "Oh, I'm going to kick your butt." And we have fun. I am laughing. And I'm not going out Friday night. I tell them, this is what I'm doing Friday night. This and maybe working out if I've got enough energy.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
That's it for this podcast. Thanks, Terry, for joining.
Thanks,
and thanks, everyone, for watching.
All right, man.